Here I am landing at runway 17 at York, returning from Bermudian, my practice session at Bermudian on the grass strip. So I'm returning back to my home airport at KTHV York Airport, and we're picking it up at the last part of my approach, where I've got the plane set up almost perfectly, right crosswind coming down at indicated airspeed of 50 miles per hour. Ground speed, according to the Verb camera G-metrics, is about 55 miles per hour. That's everything looks normal. I've crabbed the plane a little bit to the right to compensate for the crosswind. You'll see that I move the stick to the right and give it a little left rudder to side slip it so that I'm aligned with the center line, and I bring it down, pull the stick back close to the right time, but a little bit early. And get it to the desired 2 to 3 feet per second decline or descent rate at the last 10 feet, or the last 6 feet anyway. And as I've mentioned in the blog, I felt the plane start to have an increasing sink rate. You can see the speed bleeds off just before touchdown a little bit too much, and you can see I sensed that the plane was sinking. So at that moment I pulled back on the stick, and that was the exact moment I would have contacted the ground, or that I did contact the ground, and the plane then bounced, took off. And then I proceeded to recover from the bounce by bouncing 3 times, and made a couple other mistakes in regards to the rudder, allowing the plane to move to the left to center line, and then trying to correct it by giving it too much right rudder, which had a tendency to cause the right wing to go down, which I then had to correct with the left aileron. So it was a little testy there at the end. A lot of things that I learned from this, however, mostly that you got to keep your feet moving on this rudder, even though there's other things going on. You have to remember that just giving it one input of rudder and holding it will cause it to overreact, or you'll over control the plane. So if you give it right rudder, you got to give it a little left rudder to stop the movement, and that's what I did not do until too late. But the biggest thing here is that this was almost a perfect approach, except that I was not following my own instructions or my own way of doing things, and I pulled back on the stick prematurely, or right at the time of touchdown, and that caused me to bounce. So that last 2 or 3 feet, you just cannot do much input with throttle or stick to try to reduce the sink rate, because if you do, you're most likely going to be in a situation where the plane is in the right attitude and is configured incorrectly for touchdown, and it's actually correctly set for a bounce and a takeoff and a rise in altitude, with which you either have to go around or you have to try to compensate for and recover from by holding the stick back. And even if you hold the stick back, most likely you may have more than one bounce after that. So let's take a look, and you'll see what I'm talking about here as we go forward. Again, we're in slow motion. I've got the right crab, and I'm now going to side slip the plane, move it into the center line by moving a little bit of right stick and a little bit of left rudder. Plane's now doing almost exactly 50 miles per hour indicated speed. It's starting to slow down. I've pulled the stick back, and I'm holding 4 feet per second decline. You'll see I'll move it back a little bit more, and I've got 3 feet per second decline, 2 feet per second, and watch my hand as I pull back just at the wrong moment. I pull the stick back just as I touch the ground, and off I go, rising probably a couple feet off the ground again. I'm holding the stick back, not succumbing to the temptation to try to porpoise this thing by pushing the stick back and forward, but holding the stick back. Plane bounces, comes back. I'm no longer aligned with the runway anymore, so now I start doing things with the rudder to try to get it to go the right direction. And you'll see I place a little bit too much right rudder, and the plane drops the right wing. I have to give it left aileron to raise the right wing. I have to release the right rudder, which allows the plane to go to the left more. And then finally the plane is sitting on the 3 points, all 3 wheels, and now I'm able to steer it adequately by using the rudder and tail wheel.